So you have learned that using the state hook, we can add state to a component. Now, there are a few things you need to know about the state hook. The first thing is that React updates state asynchronously, meaning not immediately. Let me show you what I mean. So here in the app component, I've used the state hook to declare and initialize a Boolean variable called isVisible. And here we have a button. When we click on the button, we set visibility to true. Now, I just told you that React updates state asynchronously, meaning not immediately. So if after this line, we do a console.log and log isVisible, we are going to see the old value. Let me show you. So back in the browser, click, look, isVisible is still false. So the update was not applied immediately. It's going to be applied asynchronously, meaning in the future. And this is done for performance reasons, because as part of handling an event, we could set multiple state variables. For example, we could set the name. Now, if every time we call a set function, React re-renders our component, we'll end up with too many re-renders. This is unnecessary. So for performance reasons, React takes all of these updates, batches them, and applies them at a later time, after this event handler finishes execution. So at that point, React applies all the updates at once, and then it will re-render our component with the updated state. Now, the second thing you need to know about the state hook is that the state is actually stored outside of a component. Let me show you what I mean. So back to our app component, I'm going to declare a local variable called count and initialize it to 0. Now, when handling the click event, I'm going to increment count by 1. Now, you know that in JavaScript, the variables that we declare inside a function are scoped to that function. So when this component finishes execution, our local variable is going to be removed from the memory. And that means the next time React re-renders this component, is going to call the app function again. So our count variable is going to be initialized to 0 again. So the update that we applied here will be lost. This is the reason why we use the state hook to store the state outside of this component. So somewhere React is going to store all the state variables for this component, and it will automatically remove those variables when this component is no longer visible on the screen. And that brings us to the third point. We can only use hooks at the top level of our components. Let me show you what I mean. So let's use the state hook to declare and initialize another Boolean variable. We can call this isApproved. So we're using the state hook to declare and initialize two Boolean variables. Now, these names that we have here, these are just local identifiers in this function. React is not aware of them. So when we use the state hook, we're just telling React that, hey, I need to store two Boolean values. React is not aware of these names, right? So somewhere React is going to store these values, most likely inside an array like this. So the next time React re-renders our component, it's going to look at this array, it's going to grab the first element and store its value inside this variable. So React relies on the order of these elements so it can map these values properly to the local variables in this function. And that means we cannot use hooks inside if statements or for loops or nested functions, because these constructs can impact the order in which the state hook is called. So to ensure a consistent order, we can only call hooks at the top level of our components. So here are the key takeaways. Firstly, for performance reasons, React updates state in an asynchronous manner. So to minimize unnecessary re-renders, it batches the updates, applies them all at once, and then re-renders a component. Secondly, when using the state hook, state variables are actually created and stored outside of a component in memory. React keeps the state in memory as long as the component is visible on the screen. And lastly, it's important to note that we can only use the state hook at the top level of our component.